Hi, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Innovate Answers, where we try to take common questions and problems that we encounter working with our clients and try to give you some actionable insights that you can use to help build better products and keep projects on track. How do we avoid the dreaded black box of software development? And I'll explain a little bit about what do I mean by that in a couple of minutes. Some of you probably already know what that means, but I'm excited to tackle this one with you guys today and share some thoughts on it. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Jeff Francis. I'm the founder of Innovate. We're a digital innovation studio based here in Dallas, Texas. Me personally, I've worked with probably more than 200 different project teams on building and launching successful software products. So to our topic today, the dreaded black box. One of my first thoughts here is the hardest problem to solve in software isn't actually the coding part. Let me explain. Most frequently, one of the problems that hides around and plagues project teams is a lack of alignment. And so transparency really helps with that. So I've talked a lot in the past about aligning stakeholders is so critically important. And that can be a variety of different stakeholders. That can be developers, that can be designers, that can be product management team, that could be executives, founders, even investors, even potential customers that you're building the product for. So transparency, generally speaking, does a great job of helping you to move towards that alignment where everybody's on the same page, sharing a common vision, knows exactly what's going on. So service design efforts are, much harder than just the coding part. We need to know things like, who are we building this for? What problem are we solving? How do we best solve that problem? So the code isn't the hard part. Getting alignment on all these things before you actually start building, ideally, is sort of the trick. So alignment between users, the client, the business use case, agreeing on these types of things really early on in the process, and then very frequently throughout the process can really help along, the goal of keeping people well aligned. In terms of trying to align people, transparency is one of the strongest tools in your tool chest to accomplish that. Think of it as transparency being a tool and making sure everybody's on the same page, especially with regards to what's actually getting built, timeline, budget, those kinds of things. And most importantly, it builds trust and it builds confidence. And this applies if you're building a product for an external client, sort of like what we do at Innovate, but it also equally applies to an in-house product team that's building something for their own business in order to keep that confidence of all of the different stakeholders and make sure that there's a level of confidence that the effort is moving forward as planned or not. Like you can make adjustments, or just making sure that as you progress through the product lifecycle or through the project, there's no surprises for anybody involved. So a couple of things there on transparency I think to keep in mind. The next one that I put together here is why dev shops tend to shy away. So this could be important to you if you're working with an external partner. This is sort of an observation that I've seen over kind of a long time in this space, and it's a very irritating thing to see. And so at Innovate, we're really kind of on a mission to not be that. But dev shops tend to shy away from transparency. Show your clients how you make the sausage. That's my advice to software developers. So for many software developers, they're worried about maybe appearing unprofessional or not having their act together by being sort of radically transparent with how they're operating and what they're doing for the client. And I really think that the opposite is true. If you invite the clients behind the curtain, include them in the process, they can see how you solve problems. And that, again, breeds confidence and trust, which you've talked about a second ago. So I think that setting expectations with your client that, look, we work in a transparent fashion. There's not going to be a black box or a hidden process here that you don't have access to. Inviting them into the process makes them a part of the team, makes it more of a collaborative effort. And so, again, that goes back to sort of building this trust and confidence. It can be slightly messier, yes, but it builds stronger relationships with your clients or your stakeholders, right? So it's not about not ever having a misstep or having a conversation or a bad demo or something like that. It's about making sure that you're including them and they can kind of see the process and see the adjustments and get the alignment that we talked about a second ago to help make sure that you're course correcting when it's really small issues instead of getting really off track when it's even more messy to try to resolve. The other thing about inviting clients into a process or stakeholders, right? This probably works more for in-house teams. When you invite other stakeholders to be a part of the process, they know that you're not hiding problems or issues, right? And from this, when you're doing that, that's how you sort of build this foundation of transparency is including them. I'll talk a little bit about what that looks like in just a second. No more black boxes. I hate black boxes more than anything in software development. So what is a black box? It's when a client inputs requests or requirements, and as I like to call it, throwing it over the fence to the team, right? And so they make an input or they make a request, they throw it over the fence to the team, and then those requests disappear into this sort of black box, and then they come back, hopefully with the deliverables that you're looking for. The problem with that is that when you throw something over the fence and wait for it to come back, there's a lot of opportunity for it to come back in a way that you're not really looking for, or the client's not looking for, or your stakeholders are not really looking for. So back to our transparency is there's a need to make sure that you're seeing what's going on along the way in a transparent way so that there's no surprises. So the problem with the black box is that there's no insights into what is happening inside the black box. You usually don't see working software along the way. Maybe you see screenshots or status updates or something like that, but you don't actually get to see a working demo. Oftentimes in the scenario where a company is using an outside partner, they don't have access to the actual artifacts. So source code, design prototypes, documentation, things that would allow you to kind of see things coming together. Again, sort of throw it over the fence with like a requirements document or something similar to that, and then hope that your deliverables come back. It's not a great way to operate. In the sort of the black box model, all of the developer resources go into making the deliverable. But if you don't like what came out, it goes back into the black box and you start another cycle hoping that it comes back again, right? If there's a big problem, you don't really find out until it's very expensive and messy and even stressful to fix, right? So avoid black boxes. Black boxes are a large reason why custom software development in general gets kind of a bad reputation sometimes for running over budget or over timelines, is because of this model of thinking you can capture everything in some sort of a requirement document or some kind of artifact and then throw it over the fence to the development team, and then it's going to come back exactly what you were expecting. That's just not a realistic expectation. So let's talk a little bit about, sort of radical transparency in action. Here's what radical transparency looks like in custom software development. One of the items that we like to do is inviting our clients into like the Slack channel for the project team. So again, this works whether you're working with an outside partner or if this is sort of an internal product team effort. But having a common channel where the day-to-day chatter is going on. I've mentioned in another video, we're a big fan of Slack. We use that with our clients and internally as well. There's lots of other good tools that are similar out there, but it's sort of interesting. People don't expect you a lot of times to add the customer to the Slack channel directly there with the product team. And I think some of the fear about that is that by adding them to that, they see all the chatter, they see all the questions, comments that are going back and forth. And even, with us working with external clients, I think sometimes we've seen in the past, until they get comfortable with it, even our team members get a little bit uncomfortable knowing that the customer's there kind of watching the Slack channel. Again, back to this concept of transparency, it's not about looking perfect all the time. It's about making sure that we're aligned and making sure that we're operating in a way that really instills confidence with our customers, that they know what's going on, they see the conversations, that type of thing. So back to our Slack example, one of the nice things about having the customer on there with you, or your other stakeholders on there with you, is that they do get to sort of passively see the communications and the conversation going back and forth. They can see questions that are getting asked. They can see answers that are getting made to those questions. And if they need to, they can hop in, adjust the answers, or identify a situation where maybe there needs to be a further conversation to really drill into something a little bit more. So one example there in Slack channel. The other one is with our clients, we set the customer up with access to sort of the board that's getting used. In our case, we use Jira, so they can see within the sprint on their own what's going on with the items that are planned for that sprint, what's the progress of those items, even down into the comments on what's going back and forth on some of these kinds of things. And so again, they can kind of see what's happening live as it's occurring. Daily stand-ups or scrum calls are another great opportunity to help provide transparency. At N08, we actually invite our clients to join the daily stand-up every day if they want. Of course, most of them probably don't have the time or are not able to be on that call every day, but they can pop in when they're able to. Some clients do choose to be on that call every day, and it's tremendous because they're really ingrained and collaborating directly with the team, and they're able to course correct, answer questions, see what's going on. And again, this is about building trust and building alignment. And so the daily stand-up is probably the lowest common denominator, about a daily check-in where the end client can be a part of that. So if you're working with an external team, think, participating in those daily stand-ups, having access to Jira, maybe being on some kind of communication tool, whether it's Teams or Slack, so that you can kind of see and get a live pulse on the communications, can be really helpful. The next one here is probably one of the more impactful ones. It's the regular sprint demo. So making sure that you're doing a demo regularly with the stakeholders, or like we do it with our end clients. We tend to do 2-week sprints. So, doing a sprint demo every 2 weeks, you get to show the customer working software. They can ask questions, give feedback, and input on the direction that you're going, just to, again, make sure that you're aligned. And I've said this a bunch in other videos that we talked about in the past, but nothing really tells the truth like a sprint demo, because it's really hard to fake that. And so you can get on there, you can see a live demo walkthrough of the software. If I was an end customer and I had a partner that I was working with, I would want to see and have access to the credentials where I can even log in to the demo site. So again, you can dig into it, see exactly what's going on. And this is about gathering sort of micro feedback throughout the process, just to make sure that we're making the corrections along the way. Again, no black boxes, no surprises at the very end of it. And then, this applies a little bit for in-house teams, but I put here, sharing timesheets. That's one of the things that we do with a lot of our clients, is that we give the timesheet detail for the client, because this trust is really important in what we do, as it is with many other businesses. But being able to show the details of where the effort's going and who's consuming that effort can be really valuable when you're working with an external partner, like getting that from them, or also within an internal team. Now, you may not share timesheet details, but timesheets typically equal budget. And so it's a great way to keep pulse on the budget. And it's also a great way to help match up, like, how is the actual effort looking against what the estimated effort was for things. So timesheets can be a good tool in the arsenal. And then, weekly status reports. So if you're working with a third-party partner, making sure that there's some sort of cadence in place for you to get a sort of standardized status report. We tend to send ours out on a weekly basis, and we use a standard format that we use every single week. Sometimes we'll tweak that format with particular information that particular client really wants to see. But things that I would be looking for in those status reports is a recap of what we were focusing on this week or this sprint, what we're set to focus on next, how are we doing overall on our budget, our timeline, and scope, right? Sort of that triple constraint that we've talked about before in the past. The other thing that is important to have in status reports is a risk log. So what you're looking for here is, are we identifying things that are a risk to the development effort? And do we have an answer for those risks? And even if you don't have the answer yet, getting that risk onto the status report is a great way to make sure that you communicate that to everybody that needs to see it. So identifying risks so that they get talked about and resolved. And then we will also often include what we call a key decisions log. So this is like when you make really big decisions, you need to make sure that all the key players are aligned and on the same page in agreement on what path you're going to follow. Put that in the decision log and keep track of that in the status report. So you can look back at that if you need to. And it's just a great way to create sort of a trail of significant decisions that have been made. So, the other thing about this is that there's a lot of conversations and different types of communication that occur when a product team is working on something. So if we think about this from the context of working with a external partner, then it's really important for you to make sure that you're getting this status report in sort of a written format, even if it's sent by email or something like that, because a lot of times people don't hear things until it's communicated multiple times. And they also can receive the communication better when it's in a written format. A tip here that I think will really help is make sure that the things that are getting communicated that are significant are communicated in terms of the impact on timeline and budget. So I've been doing this a long time, and my experience has been that sometimes when we're just having a conversation, we're communicating risk or concerns that we're coming across to our clients, they don't fully understand why we're telling them that until we put it in the context of here's how that could affect the budget or timeline. And that just really helps understand here's why this is important. So that's a great tip for helping to review those things. And then if it's not already presented that way, then maybe asking questions like, how will this affect budget? How will this affect timeline? How does this affect our original scope? That's a great way to sort of X-ray vision some of these headlines to understand what the real impact is. Always on artifact access. So clients always have access to their artifacts at all times. And here's why. You would be surprised how many times I've had conversations with founders, either in a brand new startup or in a early stage startup that's maybe already started working on the product, a lot of times with a third party. You'd be surprised how many times in talking to them, they actually don't know where all their artifacts are. Even things as important as source code. I've talked to many clients over the years where they've worked with an external partner. They've decided to move on because that wasn't really meeting the need the way they wanted to. And when we start asking for basic artifacts like source code or design files or even sort of basic documentation, they don't know where that is. And so I think I would really encourage you to make sure that, especially if you're working with an external team, that you maintain access and control over all of your artifacts all the time. For those people that are more experienced or sophisticated when it comes to building software products, you may want access to other things. For instance, having direct access to the source code repository, you might be able to get a good look at sort of what the activity is, who's contributing, or is the source code getting managed in sort of a clean industry standard or best practices way. So for those of you that have done this more, have more experience, maybe are more technical, having access and visibility into the actual repositories can give you some pretty good insights. The other thing too to keep in mind is that, a lot of people forget about design files. So making sure that you own the design files, you have control of those, you have access to those, you back those up. That's another artifact that I see people miss out on a lot of times just because they haven't really thought about it. Here's why radical transparency is worth the hassle when it comes to custom software development. The main point is that it builds trust and builds confidence. It strengthens your client team relationship. Again, this can apply to an in-house product team as well as a company that's working with an external partner. You really want that to be a collaborative effort. And so transparency really helps to be a great tool to make that happen. And then probably the more compelling one here is that it really radically reduces the amount of big problems that occur because you're solving problems when they're really small and they're more manageable. So build trust and confidence, strengthens the relationship among the different stakeholders on the team, and really helps reduce the number of big issues that you have to deal with along the way. Just in conclusion here, we're always looking for new topics that are of interest to you guys. So if you have any feedback on this video, or if you have new ideas for future topics, we'd love to hear about those and maybe get those included. You can send an email to info@eno8.com. That's info@eno8.com. Or I'm really active on LinkedIn, so feel free to drop me a direct message over there on LinkedIn. For more information on Eno8 and what we do as part of our innovation lab, you can go out to eno8.com/innovation-lab. We've got a lot of good information out there on the page about what the innovation lab is, what problems it solves, and that type of thing. So check it out. Thank you guys for joining us today. Hope that this video helped and would love to hear some feedback from you. Thanks.